Picture a small boat sitting on like a perfectly calm morning shore.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
There's no hurricane on the horizon. There are no crashing waves, no violent winds, no warning sirens at all.
Right. Just a beautiful, quiet day.
Exactly. It is completely serene. But give that boat a few hours and suddenly it's miles out to sea, completely lost.
Wow. Yeah, because of the drift.
Exactly the drift. Today on the deep dive, we are looking at the silent, completely unnoticed danger of drifting. So welcome back to Transformation Talks.
So glad to be here.
This is our special After the Amen deep dive, where we take a closer look at the messages that move us. And our mission today is to unpack a truly powerful sermon delivered by Transformation Ministries' own speaker, Pastor Lenore West.
Such an incredible message.
It really was. This was originally given on March 15th, 2026. And if you, the listener, have ever felt like you're just sort of moving through your days, trying to hold on to a long-awaited promise, but somehow you keep ending up miles from where you thought you would be, well, this deep dive is entirely for you.
It really is a profound psychological and spiritual phenomenon
Yeah.
because we're so conditioned to prepare for the explosive moments in life, right?
Right, the big disasters.
Exactly. The obvious disasters, the sudden losses. But Pastor West's material really forces us to examine the slow fade.
Yeah.
And honestly, more importantly, it breaks down the literal, sometimes completely grueling physical lengths we have to go to in order to drop an anchor.
Okay, let's unpack this because I want to get straight into the mechanics of that. It is fascinating. But to understand Pastor West's message, we really have to look at how she deliberately set the stage first.
She did. The service actually started with a women's history moment, didn't it?
Yes, presented by evangelist Teresa Watson, and she focused on a woman named Nancy Harris. Now, I know she's connected to a brand called Vontel Eyewear, but what was the specific gap she was trying to fill there?
So Nancy Harris, along with her business partner Tracy Green, they basically realized that the optical industry had this massive blind spot.
No pun intended, right?
Right, exactly. People with wider nasal bridges, higher cheekbones, or just larger head sizes simply could not find frames that fit their facial architecture properly.
Which is crazy to think about.
It is. And it wasn't just a matter of style, It was a matter of actual physical discomfort and, really, exclusion. So they built a company to solve it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They created frames with vibrant patterns inspired by global cultures to celebrate individuality. And that ultimately earned Nancy a spot on the Forbes 50 over 50 list.
Okay, I mean, I can see how that is incredibly successful, but I do want to push back a little on this being featured at the start of a church service.
Okay, how so?
Well, is this just modern hustle culture being praised from the pulpit? Like the narrative of finding a gap in the market, building a brand, and getting on Forbes, it feels very disconnected from the idea of spiritual endurance or faith.
I hear that. And that is a very fair critique if we only look at the commercial success of it all. But what's fascinating here is how Evangelist Watson framed the actual mechanism behind the hustle.
Okay, what was the mechanism?
She rooted Nancy's entrepreneurial drive in a scriptural mandate, specifically Proverbs 31, which emphasizes stretching out your hands to the poor and needy.
Ah, okay, that changes things.
Right. And she also connected it to a deep generational legacy. Nancy's mother, Phyllis Mama Rose Halton, immigrated to the U.S. from Jamaica back in 1970, and she brought this foundational belief in lifting others as you climb.
So the business is functioning as a vehicle for something else entirely.
Precisely. Vontel Eyewear uses its platform to partner with schools and organizations, providing vision screenings and access to eyewear for underserved students.
That's amazing.
It is. Because mechanically, when a child cannot see the board at school, their cognitive development, their confidence, it's all stunted. By providing proper eyewear, Nancy is literally removing a physical barrier to a child's potential.
Yeah, and that reframes the entire concept of having vision. True vision isn't just spotting a problem in the market so you can, capitalize on it. True vision is building a solution that clears the path for the next generation. It's actually a brilliant way to prepare the listener for a sermon about spiritual vision, because it establishes that holding on to a vision requires active sweat equity work.
Which brings us directly to the physical toll of holding on to a vision.
Yeah.
I mean, it is incredibly easy to talk about building a legacy or holding on to hope, but the actual physical reality of doing so can be exhausting.
Completely draining.
And Pastor West experienced this literal exhaustion. She shared this deeply vulnerable story with the congregation about her time in physical therapy.
Yeah, I was struck by how raw she was about this. She was in extreme physical pain.
Yeah, severe pain.
And when her physical therapist asked her what her ultimate goal was, she did not give the standard answer at all.
No, she didn't.
She didn't say, like, I just want to walk around the grocery store without hurting. She told the therapist, I need to be able to get on my knees.
She wanted to restore her ability to pray prostrate before God. She wasn't just trying to get her mobility back. She was trying to get her posture of submission back.
And to achieve that, the physical therapist put her through absolute misery, just grueling lunges, body weight, squats.
Oh, worst.
Right? Pastor West is in the gym, sweating, pushing through this intense discomfort, telling the trainer that whatever they have to endure, they have to get better.
It's a powerful image.
It really is, because when you think about the mechanics of physical therapy, it's essentially about breaking down scar tissue to restore a range of motion. The body resists it, it hurts.
It hurts so much.
But that seems to be exactly what Pastor West was doing spiritually, too, building the muscle to break down spiritual resistance. I've heard the phrase transitioning from spiritual milk to spiritual meat used to describe this, but what does that actually mean for the listener?
So it's a metaphor for cognitive and spiritual development. Just like an infant can only digest milk, a person new to a concept or a faith needs simple, comforting truths.
Like the basics.
Right. Like God loves you is milk. It's easy to digest. But meat requires chewing. It requires the heavy lifting of grappling with complex, really painful realities.
Like trying to maintain your faith when you're actively suffering.
Exactly. Spiritual maturity means moving past the easy beliefs and enduring the squats and lunges of hardship without giving up. Pastor West was doing the physical equivalent of spiritual meat eating.
And the exhaustion of that heavy lifting really catches up to you. Pastor West shared what happened after that therapy session.
Oh, the morning they got home.
Yes, she and her husband got home in the morning, totally drained. She's sitting in front of a blank television screen, completely depleted, and she hears God ask her a very confronting question.
What is your hope anchored in?
Yes. What is your hope anchored in?
The timing of that question is so crucial, too, because she was facing some very bleak situations. Back in January, she had received this profound sense, like a seed of hope, that this was going to be her due season for a breakthrough.
But then time passed.
Right. By the time March 15th rolled around, she admitted she felt kicked and just punched in the gut by life circumstances.
It's so relatable.
It is. She used a very visceral metaphor, actually saying she was terrified she was going to miscarry this seed of hope before it could ever come to fruition.
Wow. Carrying a pregnancy of hope, feeling it begin to grow, but then getting hit with challenges left and right until you fear a miscarriage that paints such a vivid picture of why we lose hope.
It really does.
We often think of losing hope as a sudden explosion, right? But Pastor West introduces this concept of the slow fade. Here's where it gets really interesting, because this is where we get back to that small boat on the quiet morning shore.
Yes, the central metaphor of the deep dive. The water is perfectly quiet, there is no storm to fight, but slowly, just the gentle current and the morning breeze start nudging the boat.
Just a little bit at a time.
Exactly. And because there is nothing tethering it, before you know it, that boat is miles from the safety of the shore.
Let's dig into the psychology of that for a second. Why does a calm sea cause us to drift so dangerously?
Well, it's because human beings are wired for crisis management.
Right.
When a massive storm hits, your defense mechanisms activate immediately.
You go into survival mode.
Yes.
Right.
You're hypervigilant, you're praying constantly, you're actively managing your survival. But when the sea is calm, your brain just turns off those alarms.
You relax.
You relax, you let go of the oars, you stop intentionally maintaining your spiritual or mental health because there's no immediate threat. And that is when the subtle currents of daily life like cynicism, fatigue, distraction, they slowly pull you out to sea.
Man, that is a staggering realization for anyone listening right now. Just think about your own life. Do we often blame sudden storms for ruining our peace when in reality we just neglected to drop our anchor on a sunny Tuesday?
Ouch. Yeah.
Right. We blame the weather, but we completely ignored the mechanics of the boat. We habituate to the calm and we just drop our guard.
And Pastor West describes the symptom of this drift perfectly. She calls it living the same situation, different day. Same situation, different month, different year.
It's the numbness of stagnation.
Exactly. The only countermeasure is dropping the anchor. Now, mechanically, an anchor does not stop the wind. The captain cannot command the ocean to behave.
That would be nice, but no.
Right. But when you drop an anchor, it embeds deep into the ocean floor. The ship will still get tossed around by the storm, but its radius of drift is strictly limited. the chain will inevitably pull the ship back.
So if we have to drop this anchor, what are the links of the chain actually made of? Pastor West roots this in Hebrews chapter 6, verse 19.
Which talks about hope being an anchor of the soul that enters into that within the veil.
Yes. She provides two unmoving elements to embed into: God's character and God's promises. But before we get to those, the concept of the veil feels very jargon-heavy. What is the actual mechanism she's referencing here?
Okay, so historically in the ancient temple, there was a massive, incredibly thick curtain, the veil.
Yeah.
And it separated the outer rooms from the Holy of Holies, which was the literal dwelling place of God's presence. Access to this room was terrifyingly restricted. Only the high priest could enter, and only once a year. The stakes were so high that they actually tied a rope around the priest's ankle and sewed bells onto the hem of his robes.
Wait, a rope and bells. Why?
Because if the bell stopped ringing, it meant he had entered with impure motives and had dropped dead in the presence of absolute holiness. They would have to literally drag his body out by the rope.
Oh my gosh, that completely changes the tone. It's like going from a reality where approaching a king could literally get you executed on the spot to suddenly being handed the keys to his private living room.
Yes.
Because Pastor West points out that when Jesus died, that veil was physically torn from top to bottom, granting every single believer direct access.
Exactly. The terror is replaced with intimacy. But Pastor West includes a really vital caveat here. You have the access, but you cannot walk into that sacred space with dirty hands and a dirty mind.
Right.
Access requires a pure relationship, not a flawless, perfect one, but a sincere, repentant desire for connection.
Okay, and once you step into that space, you can embed your anchor into the first link, God's character. She cites Numbers 23.1, that God cannot lie, and Malachi 3.6, that God does not change.
Which is such a comfort.
It is. She used a really poignant anecdote to explain this, talking about suddenly remembering a casual text message promise she had made to someone like 4 years ago.
The contrast there is so striking. Human memory is incredibly fragile. We make casual promises, we get distracted, we forget, and we just let people down without even meaning to.
Right, but 4 years later, she remembers. And the person had just been waiting. Pastor West used that to illustrate that God has no long-term memory loss.
No spiritual dimension.
Exactly. If he said it, the mechanics of his very nature dictate that he has to fulfill it.
Which naturally brings us to the second element, the anchor, the promises themselves. Because you cannot anchor your boat to something you don't know exists.
That makes total sense.
She systematically outlines the promises available to the listener. Salvation, protection, guidance, and the promise that his mercies refresh every single morning. She even touches on health and wealth.
Yeah, she specifically noted the mechanism in Deuteronomy for that, right?
Yeah, that God doesn't just hand over a bag of gold. He gives you the power, the ability, and the cognitive capacity to get wealth.
To illustrate holding on to those promises, she brings up Abraham. He waited 25 years for his promise of a child to come to pass.
A literal lifetime.
Yeah, he was well past childbearing age, and he literally laughed at God because the promise defied all human logic and biological mechanics. But here is where I really struggle with this concept, and I do want to push back.
Okay, go for it.
It is so easy to summarize a life in a sermon and just say, Abraham waited 25 years and held on. But 25 years is a lifetime of waking up every single day to an empty nursery.
It's agonizing.
It is. How does a person actually reconcile that kind of agonizing delay with a loving God?
Well, this raises an important question, right? It's arguably the hardest question in theology. And Pastor West offers a perspective shift that is difficult to swallow, but mechanically necessary.
How is it?
She points out that God operates on a timeline completely independent of our human urgency. Sometimes God does things simply for his good pleasure and his own ultimate glory.
So it's not a punishment.
Exactly. The delay isn't a punishment. It is the stage being set. When the deliverance finally comes after 25 years, it is so logically impossible that no human can take credit for it. The glory belongs entirely to the architect of the miracle.
I hear that. I do. But when you are the one in the middle of a relentless storm, waiting for that curtain to lift, telling someone that their pain is just setting the stage for God's glory, feels incredibly heavy.
It's a tough pill to swallow.
It really is. Pastor West mentioned that just the week prior to this sermon, their city experienced all 4 seasons in a single day.
Oh yes, summer heat, spring rain, fall winds, and snow, all within hours.
It's the perfect metaphor for chaotic life circumstances where you just have zero control.
And when the storm is that chaotic, staring at the bottom of the ocean where your anchor is buried isn't always enough. You have to lift your head and look at the horizon.
Ah, the lighthouse.
Yes. Pastor West introduces the imagery of the eternal lighthouse. She shared a story of a lighthouse keeper who was asked how he could possibly sleep peacefully while violent, terrifying storms battered the glass.
How did he do it?
His answer was purely mechanical. He slept because he knew the lighthouse was built on a foundation of solid rock. The integrity of the foundation dictated his level of panic.
The foundation dictates the panic. I absolutely love that. But I want to press you on something else she brought up here. She quoted Soa Corinthians, which refers to our earthly struggles as light afflictions.
Yes, light affliction.
If I'm sitting in a hospital waiting room after a terrifying diagnosis, or if I have just lost my career, calling my visceral, agonizing pain a light affliction feels completely dismissive. How does Pastor West reconcile the theology of a light affliction with the devastating human emotion of grief?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it sounds dismissive only if your entire reality is confined to the immediate moment. The scripture she references does not use the word light to mean painless.
Okay, what does it mean then?
It uses light as a unit of measurement on a scale. On one side of the scale, you have your earthly suffering. On the other side, you have what the text calls the eternal weight of glory.
Oh, I see.
Mechanically, if you only look at your lifespan on earth, your afflictions will completely crush you. They are unbearable. But when you place them on a scale against infinite, eternal restoration, the weight dynamic shifts entirely. The pain is deeply real, but it is temporary.
It's a matter of contrast then, weighing the finite against the infinite.
Exactly. And shifting to that eternal perspective is what unlocks the actual authority Pastor West talks about. You cannot access this authority if you are standing in the outer courts, the superficial, casual areas of faith where you just show up on holidays.
You have to get behind the veil.
Yes, you have to get behind the veil. She reminds the congregation of historical figures who operated from behind that veil, like Joshua, who commanded the celestial bodies of the sun and moon to stand still, or Jesus in the boat, speaking directly to the barometric pressure of the storm, saying, "Peace, be still," and literally forcing the wind to cease.
And she argued that anyone listening has that exact same authority to speak to their own chaotic or dead situations.
Yes,
Right?
absolutely.
But you only get that authority by doing the grueling work in the physical therapy room, pushing past the easy answers, doing the spiritual squats, and getting on your knees behind the veil.
That is exactly where the power to command the storm, or at least the endurance to survive it with unshakable peace, is forged.
So what does this all mean for you, the person listening right now? Whether you are an entrepreneur like Nancy Harris, stretching your vision to find practical solutions that remove barriers for your community, or maybe you're someone utterly exhausted doing the difficult spiritual squats, just trying to find the strength to pray again.
Yeah.
Your hope cannot just float on the surface. You have to do the intentional work of dropping your anchor into the character and promises of God before the calm sea lulls you into drifting away.
The anchor does not guarantee a calm ocean, but it is the only mechanism that guarantees you will not be swept away when the weather turns.
I want to leave you with one final provocative thought today to mull over. We have spent this entire deep dive talking about how to anchor your own ship and how to fix your eyes on the eternal lighthouse. But consider this. If you do the heavy lifting, if you drop your anchor and hold securely in place during a violent, terrifying storm, how might your steadfast life actually serve as a lighthouse for someone else? If a friend or a stranger is caught in the current, just drifting by, seeing you hold firm might be the exact reminder they need to finally drop their own anchor.
Your endurance becomes the roadmap for someone else's survival. That is beautiful.
Truly. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. If this conversation resonated with you, please be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss a deep dive into these incredible messages.
And we highly encourage you to experience this community for yourself.
Yes, we explicitly invite you to join us live on the Transformation Ministries VB YouTube channel or their Facebook page every single Sunday at 10 a.m. It is always a powerful experience.
Highly recommend it.
Furthermore, to hear the unedited full power of the sermon we unpacked today, you can watch replays of the entire message right now on the Transformation Ministries YouTube channel. Go watch it, let it anchor your week, and we will see you next time.